All right, today we're going to take a look at the Pancake sort challenge from Topcoder. Now, Pancake sort is a very special sort of sort. Um, it's similar to selection sort, but it's only allowed to use one method to flip or to move items within the array to create the sorted array. And this method is the flip method, and it flips the array on a specific point that's found within that subarray. So we're going to go ahead and go through the method, and we're going to talk about exactly what's happening. But essentially, it follows a few steps. So the first step is it locates the maximum number in the array and finds the index for that number. Then it has one of two choices. So again, that first step is to find the maximum index. Then, if that maximum index is greater than 0, it's going to flip that subarray from 0 to the maximum index. And by flip, I mean reverse it. And then that maximum index is going to be at point 0. At that point, it will flip or reverse the entire array so that the maximum number is the last element in that subarray. Now, I do say subarray because what we're doing is every time we go through a flip cycle, the endpoint of that subarray is going to be one less. So if I have 10 digits in my array, my first subarray runs from 0 through 9, the indices. Then in the second cycle of that, my subarray runs from 0 to 8, and then 0 to 7 in the next cycle, and so on and so forth. So what we're doing then is we are basically just using this reverse method in Ruby to flip the maximum number to that last position of the subarray. And that is the only movement that's being made within this method. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the main method. And I've broken apart the main method into several different sub-methods to kind of help show and see what's going on. Now, within these methods, I do have print statements that are basically just inspecting what's going on in the array and showing us the number of flips that it takes to get to that location within that array. And these print statements will be removed before I submit the code. So my main method for Pancake sort will only have 2 lines once I get to actually turning this in. So the first is, again, because I want to try to not mutate the original array that's coming in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the duplicate of the array, and I just simply use the dup method for arrays. And this duplicate is what's being accessed and essentially sorted here. Now, if I wanted to do a hard sort, if I wanted to actually mutate the array, I would just forgo creating the duplicate and just pass the array into the sort here. And then the returned would actually be a mutated array. So let's go ahead and go through it. Now, the sorting method, the main sorting method, is actually just called sort, and it takes in the array. And I've created a variable here called flip count because basically for this, and again I will delete this before I submit, I'm just showing you how many times the max or the array has been flipped in order to get to the sorted order. And again, this is just for debugging purposes and just to show you what's going on within the array itself. Okay, so from there, I'm going to take the array and I'm going to count down. Remember, we're getting a series of subarrays as we go through. So this method is going to create a series of subarrays, and it's going to decrement that endpoint as we go for each flip cycle, so that we know that the greatest number or the largest number for that subarray is going to be at the end of that subarray when we're finished. All right, so from the maximum point, that's the array size -1, so that will give us the maximum index in this array. So if I have a 10-digit array, then this will be 9. And I'm going to count down to 1, and I'm just using the down to method enumerable to get me down to 1. And each of these passes is just going to be called current size, again, because we're just using the size of that subarray. Then within that subarray, I'm going to find the maximum index. Now this maximum index is the location in the array with the maximum value within that subarray. Okay, and I've created a method called find the maximum index, and I'm passing in the array that we're dealing with and the current size. So if I go down to find max index, then notice then array and current size is passed in, and the max is just going to be that maximum value using the maximum method here for arrays from 0 to the current size. And then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to print that number. Again, this will actually be removed before I submit it, but again, just to show you what's going on here. And then return the index of that maximum number. So again, I'm returning the index of that maximum number. And this index is what we're going to be then using to flip our array. So if the maximum index, and this is again going through the cycle, is equal to the current size, that's basically telling me that it's at the end of this subarray, then I'm going to go to the next cycle. However, if it's not, I first check to see if that maximum index is greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, I need to move that maximum number to the beginning of the subarray. So I will flip or reverse this subarray, and I do that using the flip method that I've created. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real fast. Now the flip method, again, is just very simple. It takes in the array and the endpoint that I'm going to be cycling on, and I'm just reversing that subarray from 0 to that endpoint. Okay, and then I just return the array after that. So again, the array that's being then looked at is just going to be a reverse from that 0, or a reverse of the subarray from 0 to that endpoint. Okay, so at this point, my maximum number should be the very first number, or at the 0 index in my array. All right, and we'll see that in a moment once we actually print what's happening. Then I'm going to flip the array again, except I'm going to flip the array on that current size index. Okay, so now I'm taking, if I'm in the first rotation or the first cycle, then that maximum number is going to start at index 0, and then the array is going to be reversed, and now my maximum number will be at the very, very end of the array. So notice I'm not really comparing anything here. I'm just taking the maximum in the array and then reversing the array. So again, this is not a comparison sort at all, not in the traditional sense of comparison sorts, other than finding the max value, which does its own sort of comparison within the array, but that's built-in method. So at the end of this cycle, my greatest number will be at the end of the subarray that I'm looking at currently. Then the cycle will iterate again. However, when it iterates, it's one smaller than the previous cycle. So again, if I had 10 digits and the first cycle was at 9, then my next cycle endpoint will be at index 8. And again, it will do that same method until it reaches the end of the cycle or the iterations. So that's it in a nutshell, okay? And then once all of this has been moved and sorted, then, or I've gotten down to count 1, then I return the array itself, which is the sorted array. So again, let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with that. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen, and then I'm just going to run the method itself. Now notice this sorting method is located in the library directory. So if I'm taking a look at my main file structure here, it's in the library directory. So when I'm doing the spec, notice that it's requiring that library directory, that file in the library directory. Okay, so go ahead and run that method. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a walkthrough. Remember, you won't be seeing this once I turn it in. This is just kind of the debug, just to show you exactly what's going on. So remember, I create a random array. It's 10 digits from -100 to +100. So here's my random array of 10 digits. Now, with 0 flips, the initial number here in this array will always be the number of flips that I've taken to get to these sorted values. Okay, so with 0 flips, I'm going to show the array that's passed in, that shuffled array that's passed in. Then I'm going to find the maximum number. Now that maximum number is 93. Now if we search through this array, we get to 93. That's at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at index 5, this is what's going to be rotated. So when I do that first flip, because this maximum number is not at 0, so there's going to be 2 flips in this cycle. So from index 0 to index 5, I'm going to reverse it. So if you take a look from index 0 to 5, you'll notice that the numbers here have been reversed. Okay, so that's flip 1 in that cycle. Now the second flip in that cycle is going to take that maximum number at 0, and it's going to flip or rotate, reverse the entire array. So notice 93 is now at index 9, 92 is at 8, 19 is at 7, etc., etc. So this cycle had 2 rotations. Now then I started the next cycle. Now notice my 93 is here, so I'm going to find that maximum number in the next cycle, which is 82. Now 82 is at index 0, 1, 2, 3. So from 0 to 3 I'm going to reverse it. So to reverse those 4 digits. And then I'm going to reverse the array, the whole array from point 0 to the current endpoint, which is point 8 or index 8. So again, 2 rotations in that cycle. Same thing happens in the third cycle, but the fourth cycle, notice it only has 1 rotation. And this is because 75 at the end of the third cycle was at point or index 0. Now because it was at index 0, all I had to do was rotate or reverse the array from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 0 to 6 just reversed, and that's all I had to do, so I move on to the next cycle. Continue through this until I get to the point at the end when I return the sorted array. And the sorted array is -96, -92, -25, -8, 19, 25, 75, 81, 82, and 93. So you notice here that everything's in sorted order. Alright, so one final thing before I finish the video is, of course, I'm going to show you the RSpec so that it passes all the tests. So again, this is bundle exec RSpec, and remember this is located in the spec folder, and it's going to be entitled Pancake sort spec.rb. Alright, and you'll notice that it showed you all the debugging stuff again, but that's okay. This is just the printing of those methods, which will be removed. But notice that it did pass all 7 examples with 0 failures. Alright, So again, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask them on the forum. I'll answer them as soon as I possibly can. And that'll do it for today. Thank you.